My question is, for the past 2 years, I've been feeling things. Uncomfortable around different people or places, like I want to say too much energy. And it scares me, because sometimes it feels like I'm vibrating too fast. And I don't know who to talk to about that, because I get panicky about it.
Well, the sensation of energy is not anything to worry about. Even incompatible energy is nothing to worry about. When you've taken time, as you often do, to align with the energy that is really you, then it's logical that when you bump up against something that is not harmonious, you might feel it a little bit. Esther remembers, especially in the early days of opening to the energy of Abraham. And by that we mean, as she was meditating and allowing a gentle raising of her own vibration, which gave her vibrational access to that which we are, she was consciously aware of the movement of that energy within her. And we think that's what you are recognizing too. In other words, let's start in another place. We want to tell you the things not to worry about. There isn't anything to worry about, but we want to put it into categories so that you can recognize what's happening. Let's say that you are aligned with the energy of your source, and you walk into a room where most everybody in the room isn't. Well, you wouldn't feel much of a sensation of energy under those conditions, because your alignment is your alignment, and what they are doing really doesn't have much to do with you, and so you would not feel any sensation. Or let's say that you're not in alignment with Source, and you walk into a room with a bunch of people who are in alignment. Still, it would not have much of an effect on you. But the sensation that you are describing is you either coming swiftly into alignment, or you choosing a thought which takes you out of alignment. In other words, that's the energy and motion that we think that you would be more likely to feel. When you begin to consciously and deliberately align to the energy of your source, you have a heightened sensitivity to energy, which gives you sometimes sensations of swooning, or even sensations of being a little fitful in your skin. How is it playing out in your experience?
That's exactly what you're saying. There are times when I'm feeling whatever it is, I'm saying it's energy, and I'm knowing, logically I'm saying, well, others shouldn't be affecting me.
Well, they aren't. They aren't really. But what happens is, let's say that you are with others and you are observing something which is causing conscious thought to happen within you. Well, that conscious thought does affect your energy. In other words, only you can affect your energy, and what you perceive definitely does affect your energy. So, but it certainly is not anything to worry about. And more you will acclimate until it will become so customary for you to be in alignment with your energy that that will just feel normal. When Esther first began receiving us, she was so heightened in her awareness of energy that her energy balance felt very delicate to her. And in time, she adjusted to that faster moving energy until that became normal. And then the dips in her energy did not occur so frequently. It's sort of like if you're in an airplane flying across the sky and you look out and everything looks very calm, even though you're flying at 500 or 600 miles an hour. But if you were to put that same airplane on the ground, you would really feel the speed of it. So the more you consciously allow yourself to meditate and align to the energy that is really you, then the more that will feel like the norm, and in time it won't matter what's happening around you, you won't notice it so much. In other words, when you take the time to meditate and align with the energy that is really you, and then you walk into places where the energy is not as pure or as non-resisted, Sometimes you feel it, just like putting the airplane back on the ground. But in time, you will become so accustomed to the way the faster moving energy feels within you that you won't have a sense when you bump up against slower energy. And again, we want to say to you, none of it would affect you if you were not focusing upon it long enough that it becomes part of your energy pattern. For example, let's say you've been meditating, you've been appreciating, you've come to an Abraham seminar, you're tuned in, tapped in, turned on. You're in a high-flying, good-feeling place. Mm-hmm. Your energy is soaring, you're in that mode of appreciation and joy, and you would feel wonderful, and your sensation of feeling wonderful would sort of envelop you, and you would not associate it necessarily with fast-moving energy. Instead, you would associate it with emotion. You'd say, I feel great, or I feel high, or I feel wonderful, or I feel joy, or I feel passion. You would use those kinds of words to describe it. Then let's say that an old friend that you haven't seen for a very long time comes and spends a week with you. And as you visit with this old friend, you start talking about things you haven't talked about in a long time, and you start focusing upon things that are a different vibrational nature, and therefore introduce the slower vibration into your vibration. And now you're beginning to feel, and you wouldn't say, I can feel my energy slowing down, or you would say, I feel fidgety, or I feel frustrated, or I don't feel so good. Well, now, the words that you used today, you were talking more in terms of energy-feeling words. In other words, you said, I can feel the energy, but it is through your emotional reading that you are even acknowledging the energy that you are feeling. Esther, from time to time, when they would go into a bookstore, would say to Jerry, I think I'll go sit in the car, because she could feel scattered energy. And it wasn't that there was energy amongst the books or among the people who were reading the books that was affecting Esther. It was that as Esther's thoughts began to ponder all of these other things, or even as she would reflect, oh yes, I remember reading that book or that book, she would introduce to her own vibrational fields different combinations of vibrations that were not necessarily up to speed with where she now is. So, most of all, we want to say to you, just don't worry about it. And next we want to say to you that in the same way that we're encouraging you to reach for thoughts that give you relief in emotion, we would say if you are that sensitive to energy, then just reach for thoughts that give you relief in that, and you will find it. This sensation of energy that you are describing is just very finely tuned emotion.
Well, I guess my big thing is maybe I'm not allowing myself to feel emotions or feel the feelings because what's happened to me is I've become very sensitive to different, chemicals, yes, but even foods or
well, it's all right. People talk about sensitivity as if it is something inappropriate. And we say, when you understand what sensitivity is, and you understand what it's telling you, then you can do something about it. It would sort of be, we teased earlier, that when you see the empty, when your gas gauge reads empty, you don't get mad at it and beat it out of the dash. Or you don't stick a happy face sticker over it and say, I don't ever want to see an empty gas tank signal again. Instead, you do something about it. And so your sensitivity to energy, we think that now, in light of what you've heard from us here today, you now know what to do about it. So when do you find, this is a hard question to answer, but we'll ask it anyway, when do you find this sensitivity happening? Can you give us some examples?
Yes. Certain times when I'm actually writing, and that's something that I actually stopped doing because it scared me, I would start writing and information would come to me that I know is not anything that I've studied. If it's quantum physics, or it's not coming from me, and I would start feeling a wave coming over me, and then I'm going to feel like I'm going to pass out.
Well, what that is, that sensation of swooning. So what's happening is your desire to receive and to understand was focused. So and your ability to receive was in place. In other words, that's in order to achieve anything, there has to be a desire for it and allowing of it. So the fact that the transmission began to be received by you means that you were asking something. In other words, you were wanting and willing, and you were vibrationally in the state of allowing. So we'd say you began in that perfect place. But then what happens to you? And you know this happens to you because it happens to you not just under this condition, but often when something that you want begins coming, then you start second guessing yourself. Then you wonder if you're really receiving it accurately, or you wonder who you're receiving it from, or you worry about, and then you begin introducing contradictory vibrations to the experience, and that's when it starts getting squirrely on you. In other words, that's next time it happens, get into the receiving mode and begin receiving, and then try to pay attention when the swooning begins or the discomfort begins. Try to pay attention to the underlying rumbling of your own thought and see if you're not sort of sabotaging yourself by saying, I hope I'm receiving this right, or I'm probably not getting this right, and then deliberately say, well, I wouldn't be receiving it if I weren't able to receive it, and everything's all right here, and I don't have to figure this all out at once, and I'll get better and better at this, and it is whatever it is, and let's just see what it is, and I'm just going to write down what it is, and I don't have to understand it. I don't have to figure it out. I'm in the receiving mode right now. I'm not in the understanding mode, or I'm not necessarily in the asking mode. In other words, right now I'm just receiving what's coming. And as you speak words like that to yourself and it calms you, you'll notice that that sensation of agitation softens and a feeling of clarity will take its place.
I see that.
Esther has noticed that she can stand on the platform all day and receive Abraham, and she would describe it as a sensation of flying, because it's a feeling of clarity and power. It's a feeling of well-being, that it is a feeling experience for her more than it is a thinking experience for her, because she's not doing the thinking. She's just allowing herself to be thought through, so to speak. And so the sensation for her is one of speed and flying. It is a delicious sensation. Then she will come off the platform, and sometimes, not always, but fairly frequently, someone from the audience will come forward who is dissatisfied. They have not fully received the answer to their question, or they don't believe that they have, or they had a question and they wanted to have it answered and Abraham did not call on them. So now, from their place of discomfort, they are wanting to address Esther with it. And Esther will have this sensation that you're describing, as the energy place where she is affected by the energy place that they are, not because they have an ability to affect her energy without her compliance, but because as she focuses upon their concern and their unhappiness, then the vibration of her being suddenly dips, and she has that sensation that you're describing, a sensation of discord within her being. Yes.
Thank you. You have helped.
Just energy. Just relax and enjoy it. Enjoy it. And in the same way that you've been hearing us encouraging, reaching for emotional relief by finding a thought that feels better, you're fine-tuning even more by reaching for the relief of that energy sensation.
Right.
And eventually, now this may surprise you, eventually you'll become so accustomed to the higher, faster vibration that you won't even notice the energy unless it dips. In other words, you become so accustomed to the clarity of the fast-moving energy that becomes the norm for you. Yes.
I see. And I think what I've done was I've gone into fear. Like, oh, something's wrong with me, or this is too weird, something's wrong.
Well, it's logical because you allow yourself, most of you, to feel about your experience as it is seen through the eyes of others.
That's what fear is.
Esther is having a glorious experience in her interaction with Abraham, but she does not want to explain it to people who don't understand it, because then through their distorted view, they view her. And it isn't that she's not proud of what she does, and it isn't that she doesn't believe that they would benefit even by knowing what she does. But when they're not ready, they're not ready. And if they're not ready and somebody tries to explain it to them, then Esther can feel the discord in the energy. And that's part of what's happening. It's a little bit of getting the cart ahead of the horse, just a little bit. Yes.
Okay.
All is well with you.
Thank you.
Yes, indeed.
Thank you so much.
Yes, indeed.